Public relations is now an established part of modern communication, but that wasn't always the case. Several key figures have helped shape the discipline into what it is today. Chief among them is Edward L. Bernays. The nephew of Sigmund Freud, he too was fascinated with the human mind and behavioral psychology. Although trained in agriculture, Bernays got his professional start by managing two medical journals. Short in stature, but tall in talent, Bernays had a gift for getting the public to change their behaviors. He usually did this through established techniques that appealed to human emotions rather than rational thought. Bernays was very influential in the lives of many people, with most of them never knowing his name. When asked to improve book sales, he got architects to build bookshelves in new homes. As short hairstyles came into vogue, the sale of hairnets plummeted until he reinvented the clothing accessory as a safety product. Procter & Gamble, a longtime client of Bernays, hired him to make soap more appealing to children, which he did by creating a national ivory carving contest that ran for decades. When Beechnut wanted to sell more bacon, he got doctors to say that it was an important part of a hearty breakfast. In all of these cases, Bernays manipulated public opinion to increase the profits of his employers. The biographer Larry Tye aptly labels Bernays' methods as Big Think. Big Think involved complex strategies that seemed to defy expectations. Whereas many ad men would directly pitch a product, Bernays would often involve an overt stunt, front groups, letter-writing campaigns, and many alliances. He would usually enlist the help of third-party experts, often of the paid variety, to further manipulate the public's emotions. As World War I approached, Bernays was unable to enlist due to poor vision and flat feet. He did find a way to contribute by working for President Woodrow Wilson's Committee on Public Information. After the war, the Committee on Public Information was dismantled. Bernays began to think that if propaganda could be used to influence opinion in times of war, it might could be used to influence purchasing habits as well. In the 1920s, Bernays worked for the American Tobacco Company. American Tobacco wanted to improve sales of Lucky Strike cigarettes among what they considered a large untapped market, women. Bernays used his acumen to design campaigns that would circuitously address his clients' desires. When American Tobacco refused to change the unattractive, unfeminine packaging design of Lucky Strikes, Bernays attempted to change the fashion industry to match the cigarette pack's green color scheme. An additional successful stunt to increase cigarette sales was his Torches of Freedom March. This event attempted to get women to not only smoke in public, something that was still considered a cultural taboo by many, but to do so parading down the streets of New York. Disguised under the idea of women's liberation, the Torches of Freedom March created much interest in a cause when it really was mainly about selling tobacco. Using virtually the same techniques as he did in the consumer marketplace, Edward Bernays was also very influential among other ventures like politics and, unfortunately, war. The United Fruit Company, under the leadership of Samuel Zemurray, hired Bernays in the early 1940s to help sell bananas. Bernays followed his usual big think tactics. He linked bananas to good health and eventually national defense. When democracy came to Guatemala later in the 1950s, the United Fruit Company no longer benefited financially as much as it did when the country was a dictatorship. Labor disputes, land redistribution, and more were becoming major issues for United Fruit, and Bernays was now more concerned with politics than bananas. He helped convince others that communism was going to be an issue in Guatemala if action wasn't taken soon. In 1954, a CIA-led coup in Guatemala resulted and a new dictator was installed. Bernays was more than a gifted ad man. He realized the power of persuasion. Much of what modern public relations has become is due to the pioneering efforts and talents of Edward L. Bernays. While his techniques were not without controversy, the success of most of his efforts cannot be denied.